What incredibly expensive thing have your parents wasted their money on? The QVC channel. My mother spent 15 years buying hundreds of items from them. We have about 4 rooms, 2 bedrooms, the attic and conservatory, filled with boxes that have never been opened. And when I say filled, I mean filled. You have to literally climb over stuff to get across the room, usually to grab a cat that has gotten trapped. She keeps buying them too. My mom bought this stupid kit that apparently make you healthier by channeling positive and negative energy through these metal pins with and stickers on them covered with fancy glass. Cost around $1,000. Scolded her so hard on this as she believes whatever she reads. Yeah, but after she rubs the glass repeated, the next thing she'll touch will shock her. That's negative charge, leaving her body. Me. No one incredibly expensive thing, but they live well outside their means. They have 2 new cars and a motorcycle, a 70-something inch television and basically every piece of smart tech you can think of, including a smart fridge that can access the internet. But they complain about not being able to pay bills and buy groceries each month. My sister. She resulted in the family requiring 3 separate lawyers for over a year, ultimately leading to bankruptcy. My brother's education. He got kicked out. Then there was no money for my education. Train tickets. They go first class anywhere they go. We live in the UK, so it would be cheaper to hire a gold-plated Bentley with an inbuilt swimming pool every time they travel. My parents are big DIYers and my dad is a contractor by trade. They do a lot of projects themselves and always buy a bunch of specialty tools for the job and then leave it unfinished. Our house still doesn't have windowsills after almost 10 years. Learn how to use the proper tools and put them in yourself. My mom is a sensible spender most of the time, but she keeps hiring jackasses to do home improvement. I think it's because she knows one of them who brings on the rest of the crew. They stole our weed whacker once and never, ever get the job done properly. In fact, one guy kept fricking it up on purpose with the assumption that we wouldn't notice until winter and call him to come fix it when it broke. They stole our herb, whacker, In his last few years, my father spent thousands on his appearance, hair plugs, dental implants, and a facelift. Then he died as a result of his alcoholism. He was the best looking body in the morgue. Thanks, Dad, for not leaving enough money for your modest funeral expenses. They got us a $10,000 security system installed last year. Yet, my neighborhood seems to be so safe that people tend to leave their cars' windows open at night. My neighbor got himself a Ferrari last year and he doesn't even lock it up. Told me that when our families had lunch. We had one actual robbery a few streets away though. Think that's enough of a reason for my parents. $5,000 juicer machine. My in-laws are constantly tight for money, like bills are always late which leads to power and or water being turned off, yet they spend more on garbage food than anyone I know, and it's not like they're spending more on high quality produce or anything, it's eating out for every other meal. I grew up in a household that was always strapped for cash so we learned how to eat efficiently. Meanwhile, they spend $60 plus for pizza multiple times a week. Then they have the audacity to make comments when my family has extra spending cash for nicer things. Let me guess one of them works a manual labor job and says well some of us work for our money, ignoring the fact that one of the people they are talking to had the same job they did and moved to a better one. Sorry your story hit a buried landmine of anger. Dad didn't have money for me to buy lunch so I had to ask for the emergency lunches every day at school and eventually got in trouble for it and my dad bought a brand new van. My parents' ranch has always struggled and barely survived the depression, the 80s and my grandmother's bad will. Last year they paid off all debt and turned a profit. They bought a helicopter and my brother had only a few weeks of lessons. He wrecked it on the 3rd flight. When I was a kid my parents were deep in debt and they were struggling to keep up for a number of years. Over the course of a week we got a bunch of new expensive stuff. We got this new 8 feet tall entertainment center made of wood with a small compartment for cassette tapes. a cabinet perfect for a 19 inches TV that was also just purchased, and a tall skinny drawer perfect for storing VHS tapes. This thing is stupid heavy and so many specialized compartments that it clearly only had one use. So, they declared bankruptcy shortly after and they didn't get any new stuff for a long time. Dad had it long into the DVD era and continuing to the Blu-ray era. There was no place for a flat screen, so it was moved off to the side. After I bought my first house, my parents gave me the entertainment center. I have no idea what to do with this enormous thing. I did make use of VHS drawer to store my magic cards, but dang, this thing is pointless for what it was intended. Declared bankruptcy, magic cards, something about apples and trees. Gambling, using my college funds, $50k, and they say the Xbox is a waste of money. Well, if they won, you would have had 2 colleges. My dad bought $400 fountain for our cats to drink out of, which they were afraid of. I crap you not, the fountain had angels from which the water flowed, for cats, which he supposedly hated. R.I.P. Dad, he was one of a kind. I adopted a cat 2 years ago. My dad was against it, said cats are more trouble than they're worth. Said I'd have to find a cat sitter every time I went home because he hates cats and is allergic and doesn't want them in his house. At Christmas he insisted that I bring my cat home and he played with her a lot. I asked him if he liked her and he said no. My dad used to always buy every power tool he could find, thinking he would use it to make something for the house. He would never build anything and most of it just spent all the time gathering dust in the shed. Me with craft supplies that I don't use because they're too nice. After my dad was diagnosed with cancer, my mom spent several grand on a pseudoscience machine called a Rife machine that emits frequencies to cure any disease. Also multiple thousands on not 1 but 2 saunas to also cure any disease. That's sad how some people take advantage of the desperate. I hope your father is doing well. A horse farm. Apparently they've wasted millions. I didn't even know they had millions. They laughed at me when I asked if they had a budget or business plan. That was years ago. They're struggling like crazy now. No sympathy from me. A $500 ottoman that its only use was a place for our dog to lay. I call that worth it. My parents are the definition of middle class, not living within your means. Parents make good money. I hope to be able to make what my dad makes, but they never knew how to manage it. And growing up we would take amazing vacations overseas. Dad bought a tournament quality pool table, jacuzzi in the backyard, high-end cars, went out to dinner all the time. A recession hit and the struggle was real for them. They burned through a ton of savings and have nowhere near the retirement they should. It honestly disappoints me. I wish I could give back all the money they spend on me in my life so they could be happy in retirement instead of angry with each other. My dad's hearing has always been bad, but recently it has gotten worse to the point where you have to tell at the top of your lungs just to get his attention. We have pleaded with him to go to see the doctor, but he's really old and old-fashioned and thinks it will be a complete waste of time, so downright refuses. A few months ago he slaps this magazine on the table and proclaims this is what I need. I look and see it in an ear hearing aid. That's how it's described anyway, and it's priced £350. I tell him, you realize if you go to the doctors you will get something 10 times better than this for free, right? Well, he ignored me and is now the proud owner of an in-ear sound amplifier that you can buy from Amazon for £10. He doesn't use it because he can't figure out how to charge it, so now it sits in a drawer next to him. A £350 plastic pebble. My childhood home, purchased right before the market crash. They bought a second house recently, then fixed up first house to sell. They like how first house looks now, so they kept both. Houses are about 10 minutes apart by driving. A week and a half long Disney vacation for 5 people. While this wouldn't be so bad in general, they filed the papers for bankruptcy soon after we got back home. That money probably should have been spent on something else, like bills, especially because they spent the entire time scolding us for not having enough fun while also telling us that we might be homeless in the near future and that we big money sinks. Till that my parents were pretty decent with money. My mum is a homeopathy nut. My mom is on that path hard. Essential oils are a stupid money pit. but by golly you can rub some on your stomach and cure your nausea. It is only a matter of time before she insults my brother for becoming a real doctor instead of some holistic shaman. My parents splurged in a beautiful, unique, incredibly tiny and in my opinion, a very genetically modified teacup poodle, shipped from South Korea to the States at a total cost of approx $30,000. They took care of it like a princess, even made home cooked meals for the dog and purchased a brand new car that could fit one of those puppy playgrounds in the back seat. The puppy was super tiny and really fragile, and tragically, it lived for only 2 years. Since my parents live in Florida and the humidity quickly gave the dog severe respiratory problems, my parents still have the now super impractical van, considering there's only the 2 of them and an unimaginably lavish dog playground installed in place of the back rows. Yep, that's what happens when you buy animals that have been mutated to be as small as possible or have severely deformed cute features. From Asia no less, where animal cruelty laws are barely existent in too many places. It's a shame, because your average shelter poodle chihuahua shih tzu would have adored that kind of life. My stepmom's purse collection. I swear she has at least 100 name brand bags. Hermes, Dior, Gucci, Chanel, Fendi, Prada, LV, Celine, etc. I love my stepmom, but I've never seen anyone spend as much money so quickly like she can. She's freaking loaded though, a former consultant now turned director of her own hospital. In fact, I am in Hong Kong at the moment. We flew here from Bangkok because I'm visiting Thailand and she wanted to shop. She's generous, but I can't help but worry about her spending habit. If she has the money, an expensive bag collection is no worse than any other collection. My mom kinda assumes I'm always settling for something anytime I buy stuff for myself. I got a blender bottle, the kind with the metal ball in it, for myself recently, so she went out and got me a whole single serve blender thing, with extra cups and blendy bits. She does that a lot. I'll take her if you don't want her. Back in the early 70s, my father bought a water heater for our in-ground pool. He bought it. One cool spring day he ran it. The gas bill that month was like $100. This was in 1970 or so in today's money that would be $600. For one day, he never ran it again. Timeshares. My mom has 4 or 5 of them. Some are legit, some were straight up scams. With the money she has paid for them, she could gone anywhere in the world. A good chunk of my education, huh? My parents own a fridge that cost more than most new cars. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I mean, do you need somewhere better to throw that money away? Cause I can't think of a lot of people who need it. That fridge better be able to keep the fish, meat, vegetables fresh for a year without losing all the texture and nutrition. Cable TV. $255 a month for the best of the best cable package available. Hooked up to 5 TVs, just so my dad can have Fox News on in the background while he works. Ugh. Also, a 4K LG OLED TV that they use to watch the news. Except that they don't know how to switch to high definition. I can't tell the difference when watching, so it's 480p on a 2.5K TV. In our old house, we had this winding spiral staircase with metal railings. When I was about 3, my parents invested about $1,000 into installing a gate on either side of his staircase so that I wouldn't fall down it and hurt myself. A week after its installation, 3-year-old me opened the gate, which had a bolt on it, and proceeded to tumble down the stairs, resulting in stitches in the ear. Oops. Good idea on parents' parts, but if your kid is special, they will remain special. Purebred puppies. My dad had 3 Corvettes when I was in high school. This was around the early zeros. He had a 67 feet, 98 feet, and a 99 feet. Needless to say, our house was foreclosed on a few years later and he was forced to sell his business because it was going under. Now the idiot is in his mid-60s and will have to work until the day he dies. Cigarettes. A lot of them. Dad died from emphysema and mom died from COPD related to smoking. My dad went to court with my mom every year for custody, 14 times. There went my college fund. My parents had a 7-figure divorce. 4 kids. Granted, I wasn't planned. The other 3 were as far as I know. 4 kids. I'd rather have no kids and 4 money. My stepmom got into Senegence. She spent well over 1,000 Australian dollars getting every single product as testers and then as stock, getting business cards, brochures and flyers professionally made. She got a couple of large banners for advertising at market stalls. She spent money on Facebook advertising, ordered hundreds of disposable makeup applicators for people to test products with. She bought big expensive bags to transport everything in. She even got t-shirts. She was the bottom of the pyramid. She didn't have anyone under her making her money. In her first year as a businesswoman, after spending all that money, she sold 5 maybe 6 products in a year. And then she paid another membership fee to continue selling the products for another year BC. She thought she was making some good money. There's a whole lot more that she's wasted money on too, but that's one of the big ones. Imo. This is the goodest fly boy. He will bring you 10 years of happiness in exchange for a like on this video. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.